thanks everyone for coming and spending either your lunch hour or kind of near the end of your day with us. So really appreciate you taking the time to learn about environmental education and nature-based learning. We've got some great presenters here for you today that are going to share the work that they're doing, and hopefully you'll walk away with a lot of inspiration, more ideas, more resources to further your understanding of environmental education and nature-based learning. So for those who don't know, my name is Camille. I'm the Lake Blitz program coordinator for Living Lakes Canada. I live on the unceded territory of the Sinixt, the Syilx, Ktunaxa, and Secwepemc peoples, based in Trail, BC. I just wanted to say thank you to all of our Lake Blitz volunteers who are joining us today for all your work this year. Your enthusiasm for this project has made it such a success, and I couldn't be more proud of this growing network and the data you've been collecting. Together, you've gathered over 800 observations on 120 lakes across Canada, which is a really amazing accomplishment. For those of you who are not a Lake Blitz volunteer and you're joining us today, I hope that you enjoy the learning that will take place in this session and even feel inspired to join our network in 2023. And of course, we couldn't do any of this work without our funders and partners. So big thanks to RBC and TD Friends of the Environment Foundation for their financial support, and prize donors, Lush Cosmetics, David's Tea, and Earth Rangers, and Kicking Horse Coffee. So thank you so much for your donations and making the prize pack so awesome this year. And also to our partners, Water Rangers and also Earth Rangers and Aqua Action, and to all the many stewardship groups across Canada that are helping to get the word out about this program and getting their volunteers involved. So here's a quick overview of our session. After this intro, it'll be a bit of a welcome and program updates and a little bit of reminder since we are wrapping up our monitoring season. Then I'll pass it to our two amazing speakers. Today we have from Earth Rangers, Tova Barokas, and hope I'm saying everyone's name right, the Outdoor Learning Store, and Classrooms to Communities. We have Jade Harvey Burrell, and they're both sharing their knowledge on environmental education and nature-based learning and how communities, families, and educators can get involved in their programs. So after those great presentations, we'll move into a Q&A period. So while the presentations are rolling, I always encourage people to pop your questions in the chat just when they come to the top of your head. And Sophie, who's joining us, who is our Lakes program coordinator, will be monitoring the chat, and we'll make sure that we get those questions answered in the question period. If you have any technical issues while you're trying to enjoy the presentation, Sophie can also help you out to the best of her abilities. Great. And just to know that this meeting is being recorded. You probably heard that robot voice at the beginning. So if you don't want to be in the recording, then you can shut off your video. In the question period, you will have the option to ask your question verbally. Sometimes that's a bit easier for people than writing it all out. So you can definitely do that and just raise your hand, and then we'll ask you to unmute, and then you can ask your question. But just a note that will be recorded, so just make sure you're comfortable with that. For those who don't know, the Lake Blitz is an entry-level citizen science program that works to equip, train, and support volunteers to gather simple but crucial data on their lakes across Canada. You don't really need a degree or any technical training to gather data as a Lake Blitz volunteer. All you need is a thermometer, a camera, and a lake you care about and would like to help steward. So this program focuses on lowering the barriers to becoming a community scientist by providing the equipment, instructions, and ongoing support from our Lake Blitz team. Our volunteers gather data related to climate change and climate change driven impacts on lakes, which the ones we focus on are the rising water and air temperatures, invasive species encroachment, and wildlife monitoring. So looking at biodiversity and the various impacts to that biodiversity. Every volunteer receives a Lake Blitz kit that has a thermometer for gathering the temperatures and instructions on how to collect data using a mobile app. And if you prefer, there's these really great little paper data cards. Our goal is to empower individuals to fill the water data gap so they can better understand the state of their lakes and build a national awareness on climate change impacts to lakes in Canada. These meetups are a chance for us to connect more with our volunteers and the general public and provide them with additional opportunities for learning from our partner groups. So today's topic is, as I said at the top, environmental education, nature-based learning. We had the pleasure this year, as part of the Lake Blitz, of working with Indigenous and non-Indigenous youth in Kimberley, BC, and that's where these photos are from. This was our first ever in-person water stewardship training since the program began in 2021. We looked at water monitoring on the watershed scale and talked about the impacts to our watersheds. Also including, what equipment you can use to collect data and what this data means for watershed health and environmental policy as well. The youth were incredibly engaged in this hands-on learning in an outdoor setting, and they were super keen and very aware of the issues themselves that are facing the environment. And they really just want to be empowered to address the challenges facing their lakes and other, freshwater environments in the coming years. As part of our research, we found that some of the researchers have seen the importance of building connections between individuals and their environment and how that helps to motivate them to protect their local environment or, local lakes. Environmental education builds this connection through accessible teachings and memorable experiences to, as in a little bit of a quote here, to change beliefs, attitudes, and most importantly, behavior. So groups like Earth Rangers and Outdoor Learning Store and Classrooms to Communities are really doing this work on the ground to educate and empower the next generation of stewards by providing really engaging activity-filled learning experiences. So we're grateful for their work, for sure. Just a few reminders here. So you can watch all of the past meetups at lakeblitz.livinglakescanada.ca and on the Living Lakes Canada YouTube channel. I really recommend clicking that subscribe button because there's so many great resources that Living Lakes Canada is putting out relating to water stewardship and water issues. So it's a really great way to keep you up to date and to put, something informative on the background while we're hibernating this winter. Past topics for our meetups have been, wildlife monitoring, invasive species monitoring, and the last one was about limnology. Last little reminder here. So the registrants and the Lake Blitz newsletter subscribers will also receive a follow-up email with the recording and all of the links mentioned in this session. So you'll be able to, watch it later, share with people, and that'll all come out after. Okay, I promise these are my last few reminders here, but just for our current Lake Blitz volunteers, to get that data uploaded to the Lake Blitz observation form. It's super easy. If you have any issues, you can definitely contact us and we can walk you through it. But just encouraging everyone to get that data in by the end of October now. So we've extended that deadline because some of you missed your monitoring days in May due to kit delays. We had a bit of supply chain issues. There was also spring flooding and some lakes were still frozen. So we were allowing these volunteers, or encouraging them rather, to monitor into October to get those 10 data points. So yeah, again, if you need any help entering your data, let us know. We're more than happy to sit on the phone with you and walk you through it and help you in any way. There actually will be some prizes awarded to those who've collected the most data. And there'll also be a random draw for volunteers who collected at least 9 data points over the sampling season. So some great Lake Blitz prize packs, which include, that Kicking Horse coffee, some David's tea, some great Lush products. So yeah, stay tuned for that and that announcement. And looking forward into our next year. So we're busy planning for the 2023 Lake Blitz. A little bit of heads up, early registration for the Lake Blitz is going to open in February. So stay tuned for that. It's a lot earlier than last year. So we just want to get as many people aware of the program and all registered up. for next year. We're asking that people who did register for this year to re-register for the next year, just so we know, who's out there, who's monitoring. It also gives you an opportunity to let us know if you need any more equipment or need any more, support. It'll be a great way to just do a check-in, make sure you have everything you need. And speaking of equipment and kits, so storing your kit properly over the winter is super important to make sure it lasts. We just wanted to put a little reminder and some tips out there. So before you tuck your kit away for the winter, just making sure that it's completely dry. So taking everything out, making sure there's no moisture, separating the thermometer and guides and data cards until completely dry. And then making sure that you're storing your kit in a dry, cool environment that doesn't fluctuate in temperature rather. So I'm going to put mine in my bedroom closet where, I know that it'll be able, it's not in my garage where it might go below freezing. So that's a good place to just tuck it away. And then also over the winter, you're going to still hear from me. You'll be getting a monthly newsletter focused on some lake news and resources just to keep the conversation alive. So stay tuned for that. And for those of you who aren't currently registered for this year, or you didn't take part this year, please let us know if you'd like to take part. You can contact me at lakeblitz@livinglakescanada.ca, and we'll add you to our email list for next year's registration. Or wait until February. You'll get the email. We'll get you connected, and we'll definitely be putting it out everywhere that registration is open, so everyone is aware and can get signed up. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to all of my updates. I really appreciate it and appreciate your attention. Now to the real good stuff here. I'd like to now welcome our first speaker, Tova Barokas. And Tova, please let me know if I'm saying your name right there when you get online. And Tova has a really great summary here, so I'm just going to read that out for you. It was while attending post-secondary education in Toronto as a student of the United States that Tova developed a passionate connection with the Canadian landscape. As her love for conservation and the environment grew, her forward-thinking mindset had her looking for an opportunity to make a difference. Since joining Earth Rangers in 2009, Tova has contributed to shaping the organization's remarkable innovative vision. Through her tenure, she has developed countless partnerships and programs that helped grow Earth Rangers into the largest kids conservation organization in the world. In recognition of her work, the Ontario government named Tova one of the province's top trailblazing women in honor of International Women's Day. So that's what a great honor, definitely a trailblazer. And this was for leading and shaping the future. So that's fantastic. In 2001, Tova co-authored a white paper on eco-anxiety in kids and outlined a list of compelling recommendations to address this growing issue. Tova also serves on both the Ontario Parks Board of Directors and Project Learning Tree Canada. Awesome. Tova is a graduate of the University of Toronto and began her career in the film industry. So we're so excited to learn more about your work, Tova. That's such a well-rounded and interesting background. And I'll pass it along to you to share your screen.
Thank you. You got my name totally right. Just one thing, the eco-anxiety research was 2021, not 2001. And I only correct you because I'm talking about it. So I don't want people to think it's 20 years out of date. It's still new and relevant.
Oh, I didn't even realize.
No problem. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. I am joining you from the Earth Rangers Center, which is located on the territory and Treaty 3 lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, as well as the traditional territory of the Wendat and the Haudenosaunee. I will share my screen. Okay. There we go. Is everyone seeing that?
Looks good.
Okay, perfect. So today I am excited to talk to you about Earth Rangers and a bit of a new kind of direction for us, which is actually like a new old direction because all of our programs have always really focused on engaging and empowering kids to make a difference for the environment in a really positive way. But over the last couple of years, we've become more interested in really understanding how kind of the impacts that we're seeing from climate change and biodiversity loss now are impacting kids' mental health, and how Earth Rangers programs can not only serve, and all of our programs can not only serve to kind of create more responsible environmental citizens, but also alleviate some of the more kind of difficult feelings that I think not just kids, but all of us are feeling as we experience these changes. So a little about Earth Rangers. We are the kids conservation organization committed to instilling environmental knowledge, positivity, and the confidence to take action in every child in Canada. Our programs reach kids at home, at schools, in the community, and we have a number of programs. Some of just the largest and most popular ones are our school assembly program. It's a live animal show that visits about 750 schools a year. We were doing them virtually during the pandemic. We're back live as of like a week and a half ago, which is really exciting because now the birds can fly over the kids' heads again, and everybody loves that. And it's just like nice to actually connect with them in person. We also have an Eco Clubs program that just makes it easier for teachers and administrators to run an eco school in their an eco club in their school. Our membership program, which we currently have about 50,000 active members across the country, almost 300,000 alumni across the country. It's accessed through the Earth Rangers app, and kids sign up to and complete a number of different like environmental activities, support real world conservation. And as they do these things out in the real world within the app, they level up and can and they've got an avatar that represents them, and it's really fun and exciting for the kids. And then we also have a couple of podcasts, the Earth Rangers podcast and the Big Melt. I mentioned over 300,000 members and alumni across Canada. So, you know, Earth Rangers is a real homegrown Canadian success story. We've kind of looked around the world, and what's I think really unique about Earth Rangers, like there's so many amazing environmental education and action organizations that are like on the ground and connecting with kids in different communities and cities and regions. And, you know, I think we rely on those organizations, you know, to have that personal relationship with the kids. What we do at Earth Rangers is give them something that makes them part of a kind of bigger community. And also just the power of the brand and the way the kids self-identify as Earth Rangers. You know, they sign up and they start signing their letters to us as, you know, Earth Ranger Ella, Earth Ranger Mohammed. Like they really take, you know, feel that it's their organization. And I think that's just a really special part of the program. So over the last number of years, as you know, as I mentioned at the beginning, you know, as extreme weather events have increased along with the media coverage of climate change and its impacts, anxiety related to the environment has also increased, not surprisingly. You know, at Earth Rangers, we've experienced that firsthand through member submissions and conversations with them and their parents. Our mission has always been a long-term one, to create a generation of conservationists, but I think it's become just increasingly clear that there's a more urgent need to address this increasing prevalence of eco-anxiety in kids. And, you know, while there's actually more and more academic literature about eco-anxiety, I still wouldn't say a ton, but there is some. It's been extremely limited for specifically for elementary age children, which is our focus area. And to our knowledge, there really wasn't anything specific to parents. So we wanted to help to fill that gap. To do that, we developed a research project with 3 distinct objectives. One was to uncover new findings and insights about eco-anxiety among children and their parents. The second was to understand the solutions and opportunities to address eco-anxiety. And the third was to measure the impact of Earth Rangers programs and approaches and ultimately improve them. So what is eco-anxiety? While eco-anxiety is not an official diagnosable disorder, it affects children and adults in real ways, and unaddressed eco-anxiety may contribute to depression, withdrawal, and apathy. In this research, eco-anxiety appeared as worrying about animals going extinct, worry that occurs when thinking about climate change, or worry about how climate change will impact children. But the research didn't only survey children and parents about their feelings about the environment. It also looked at eco-actions amongst these groups. And by eco-action, we mean any activity, including, you know, conversations and interactions that support or contribute to protecting the environment. So in this research, eco-action appeared as volunteering on projects to protect animals, donations to environmental charities, talking to friends and family about climate change, and a whole host of other actions. So survey results showed that Earth Rangers members were more likely to be worried about climate change. As you can see from this slide, 44% of Earth Rangers members were very worried compared to 26% of Gen Pop kids. So those are just kids in the same age group that are not members of Earth Rangers. You know, in a lot of ways, I think this makes sense because, you know, when someone's more concerned about an issue, they tend to want to do something about it, hence signing up to be an Earth Ranger. But while Earth Rangers members were more worried than the general population, they were also more likely to feel that they could make a difference. And they were more likely to take environmental actions. So, you know, kind of as demonstrated from this slide. So this led to this key finding number one, that some level of concern for the environment can be useful and healthy when it leads to action. And that's corroborated in the existing research and pro-environmental behaviors among children and youth who are concerned about climate change. So it's totally fine to be concerned, but let's then kind of take that next step and try to do something about it. So based on the responses to a series of statements within the survey around feelings about the environment and actions taken, respondents were actually divided into 3 groups, what we're calling kind of this eco-anxiety and eco-action index. The groups were empowered, disengaged, and apathetic. Earth Rangers kids were much more empowered, as well as were their parents. You know, this was an important finding to consider because current research on eco-anxiety really highlights that children and youth tend to be at greater risk of experiencing anxiety over climate change, in particular because they often lack the agency to do something to address the issue. And obviously this is because they're more reliant on parents and caregivers to make or not make eco-conscious decisions. You know, this really suggests that Earth Rangers programs and programs like Earth Rangers, like not just ours, just any program that really like gives kids tangible ways to make a difference and shows them the impact of their actions, you know, may help to build a sense of agency among children, thus addressing a root element of eco-anxiety amongst this age demographic. You know, to me, this is especially important because I often think that a lot of the suggestions to empower actions are not necessarily kind of productive for kids in the age group we're talking about. You know, you hear a lot about climate marches and political advocacy, and those things are really, really important and effective, but really just relevant to older youth. They're not necessarily kind of relevant to younger kids. So it's good to know that there are other things that younger kids can do to feel empowered as well. And then key finding number 3 was that, you know, children's engagement in environmental activities through the Earth Rangers program often resulted in more engaged parents, increasing pro-environmental behaviors like taking additional steps to conserve energy, thinking of the environment when making purchases, and celebrating initiatives such as Earth Day. So in essence, empowering kids means empowering the whole family. And this can also be referred to as the pass-through effect. You know, this is important for a number of reasons. Obviously, parents do hold the purse strings, and it is important that, you know, adults are kind of changing their behaviors as well. But it's also, I think, really good news for any program that's looking to kind of, you know, explain their value proposition, like what is the value of environmental education and empowerment for youth. You know, it can often be more difficult to show that immediate impact, like we see the impact that we're making, but to be able to prove that what we're doing is actually creating like real tangible, you know, kind of pro-environmental benefits, it just really helps when we're looking for funding, when we're trying to get, you know, more schools or families to sign up. So this was a really interesting and positive finding for us. So if I was going to leave you with one thing today, it would be that kids' concerns about the environment are real, and with the right support, so is their ability to act on it. You know, so basically out of this research, we didn't just want to kind of have the research and have the insights, but we also wanted to make some recommendations that parents and teachers and others could actually use to you know, in their own lives to encourage this type of action among their the kids in their life. So we created this handy framework, which we're calling the 5 E's to drive eco action. They consist of empathy, so, you know, providing ample space and opportunities to discuss climate change and allow children to identify and express their feelings about climate change. To me, like, this is one of those ones that feels really obvious. Like, well, obviously, you know, you should have empathy, but I actually think that adults often feel really uncomfortable with these conversations for good reason. And when kids ask about difficult subject matter related to the environment, it can sometimes be a knee-jerk reaction to say, like, everything's going to be okay, don't worry about it. And that is actually very counterproductive. You know, parent or kids need their feelings validated, you know, they need them acknowledged, and to understand that, like, we are also worried about these issues, but there's things that we can do. You know, the next one is education. So, you know, offer opportunities to learn about climate change and possible actions that children and families can take to protect the natural environment. So, you know, the next step after allowing kids to express their concerns is, you know, to learn more together. So get the information, find out what different groups are doing about it, participate in the Lake Blitz, perhaps. Things like that are perfect. The third is environmental stewardship. So, you know, provide opportunities to spend more time outdoors and foster feelings of a connection to nature. Where am I? Fourth is excitement. You know, make it fun. I think this is what Earth Rangers does really well, is just making it really fun and compelling, gamifying it, you know, making it something that kids look forward to. And then empowerment. You know, I think we all have those kids in our lives that love to teach us something. Kids love to feel like they know something that adults don't. So, you know, we have a bunch of activities at Earth Rangers that really make kids the leaders, that give them, you know, some inside information that most adults maybe don't know about. We've got, you know, one called the Water Taste Challenge. It's kind of a riff on the Pepsi challenge, where kids, you know, set up a booth and see if adults can tell the difference between bottled water and tap water, which, spoiler alert, they never can. And it makes kids just feel, you know, clever and empowered and like they know something we don't. So that is the end of my presentation. Obviously, more than happy to take questions afterwards. And thank you for your attention.
So, oh, that was wonderful, Tova. Thank you so much. Yeah, wow. I feel like everything you said, it's like I can think of all, like, so many interactions I've had working with kids in, you know, my work, you know, with other societies and with the Lake Blitz. It's just like, yes, like having empathy, meeting them where they're at, and then giving them something to do is so important. I love that. And yeah, if you haven't, if no one has yet, go to the Earth Rangers website. There's so many fun things. It's super bright, engaging, and yeah, very well suited for kids and families.
Thanks.
Awesome. So yeah, so now I'd like to welcome Jade Harvey-Burrell, who is wearing 2 or 3 hats today, representing, there she is, changing them on and off. She's going to be representing her work with, you know, the Outdoor Learning Store and the Classrooms to Communities Network. Jade is a physical geographer, environmental educator, outdoor instructor, and guide based in beautiful Revelstoke, BC. Originally from the UK, Jade has called the traditional and unceded territories of the Snipes, the Ktunaxa, Secwepemc, and the Okanagan Silks home since 2016. She has been designing and delivering environmental education programs for over 15 years across 4 continents and 7 countries. She runs outreach and events for the Columbia Basin Environmental Education Network, also known as CBEAM, the Outdoor Learning Store, and working closely with Take Me Outside, the Classrooms to Communities Network, in addition to her own educational consultancy called Stoked on Science. I love that title. One of her greatest passions is inspiring citizen scientists and environmental stewards through outdoor and environmental education. So with that, I'll pass it over to you, Jade. You can take it away.
Thank you so much. It never gets any easier listening to those things about yourself. I'm just going to share mine And hopefully you have to let me know, there are a couple of videos in here, whether or not you actually hear them. And yeah, my background today, so I'll explain a little bit, but CBEAN is the Columbia Basin Environmental Education Network. We're a network of environmental education, believe it or not. And then we started the Outdoor Learning Store, which is our charitable nonprofit social enterprise to help support the work we do there. And then one of our key partners is Take Me Outside, and I wanted to share about them today because they have the amazing free resources available for Take Me Outside Day and Week, which is coming up October 17th to 21st. And then Classrooms to Communities is a part of the network that CBEAN has built that's provincially wide and relevant across Canada, to bring classrooms out into communities, to build connection and to provide opportunities for people like yourselves that are joining us to connect. And as today is the day before the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, I wanted to share a representation. So this design is by Daniel Puglas. He is an artist connected with Strong Nations. So there are Indigenous one of our Indigenous partners and advisor groups, and they're based on Vancouver Island. They're an Indigenous owned and operated publishing house. And so I'm going to share a couple of their resources today, and I just wanted to honour them and all of the Indigenous people that have helped us build true connection to place in the 10 years since we've been doing this. So this is me. I'm very fortunate to live in a place with lots of water. There's a bit of a watery theme as we're hanging out with Living Lakes Canada. But yeah, my passion is sharing nature-based and outdoor learning with everyone. This is the Arrow Lakes Reservoir. It's effectively an artificial reservoir that was caused when the Columbia River was dammed for hydroelectric power. And I'm here working with a bunch of students. This is an old mining spot. And so we were looking at the way that water shapes the landscape and is utilised for industry and the way land use has changed over time. But I spend most of my time out there doing this. Again, very important to acknowledge the traditional territories that we're on. So there is an enormous amount of intractable conflict where I live that has basically been around because Indigenous and traditional territories have been taken. But I live in Revelstoke, which is just here. You can see there's sturgeon nose canoes, which indicate it's a very particular type of canoe that is made by the Indigenous peoples here. And this is a map by the autonomous Sinaiaks that are based in the Slocan Valley where that previous picture was taken. And on their map, the water is normally blue, right, on maps, but they have red because it's the blood of life. It's the blood, it's the connection that all things flow through, all living things flow through. And I live down here for the Sinaiaks people who, this is their primary territory. We would call this Skihikan where I live, which is where the ridgeline meets the water. And as you can see, I've got the Selkirk Mountains on the east, the Monashees on the west, and there are two big ridge lines that drop down to the water of the Columbia River. And it's a very special place. It's also known to the Secwepemc from the west, the Okanagan Silks from the south, and the Tanaha people from the east. So the Tanaha call the Columbia River the Chickadee River, or the Miskakis River in their language. And in fact, they refer to Revelstoke as Miskakis, as the land of the Chickadee, and I pretty much hear them any time of year outside my window. So a very astute connection to this place. I'm an uninvited guest here and a non-Indigenous person who is an immigrant. And so a lot of the conversations I'm having with Indigenous advisors, mentors in my life, though, are that like, we have to get rid of this collective guilt that we have taken, and we have to look forward. And reconciliation cannot happen if we do not share Indigenous resources. There just aren't enough people, Indigenous people left to solely hold on to that. And that's the conversations that we're having. Indigenous culture is not just past, it's present, it's new, it's being created in this moment. So we have to get it, lift it up, be strong allies through that. And one of the ways that we can do that is through connection with water, because it is so integral to all of us. So that's my personal Indigenous acknowledgement. Actually, before we go forward, I just want to read, this is a book published by Strong Nations. It's written by Leah Marie Dorian, who's a Métis lady from northern Saskatchewan, but the Métis are across Canada and into North America itself as general. This book is called Poems to Honour Mother Nature. And I'm going to read it here just as I use my rain stick. So one of the other things when I'm doing environmental education is that this is cross-curricular, whether you're in a formal or an informal learning situation, music, math, science, physical education, it all ties in. So I'm just going to read you, it's only a couple of pages, but I'm hoping that my rain stick will pick up on my microphone, we'll see. Water is like medicine, dancing down rocky crevices and sparkling in the sun. I feel relaxed and calm in water's presence. I am moved by water as it dances, twirls, and flows. In my life, I know that water heals. Water sounds like lightning and thunder. Sometimes water is like a calm and clear day. I wish everyone had clean water. Water is life. Water has spirit. Water is within me. So thank you to Leah Marie Dorian for that. Beautiful piece of modern poetry. And then these Strong Stories books have these sort of creative writing things. They have water is like when I feel I am questions that you can follow through as an inquiry. So sometimes I start every outdoor session or any environmental session with a story or a hook. And I find that can really engage students and give them a bit of inspiration as they go out. This is how I first connected to water in my life. I am an environmental chemist, and these, I don't know if anyone will recognize what they are. Normally I do a bit of a quiz, but time is short today. But these are ostracods. These are microscopic bivalve crustaceans that live in every water body on Earth, salty, freshwater, puddles, lakes, rivers, oceans, you name it. And Canada has a phenomenal sort of stratigraphy of these, and what they are is we think they're one of the pillars of evolution. Firstly, secondly, these have lived for hundreds of millions of years, and they tell a really specific story about our climate and the environment that they live in. So I don't know if you can see these really beautiful decorations, but down here in letter I, these, we call these nodes, these little spotty and spiky bits, form primarily in saline, salty water. These different decorations on the shell developed based on what kind of water they're in, whether it's fast flowing, smooth, very agitated water, or whether it's really warm or cold. Cold water ostracods are very smooth normally. And so anyway, these have been used, we use these as a climatic proxy. We find them, the fossil ones that can be up to 300 million years old, and modern populations still exist, and then we compare them and we say, okay, so this E species really only lives between water that's fresh water, quite calm, between 2 and 4 degrees. And when we find that same fossil in the record that we've dug up from, let's say, 200,000 years ago, we can say, I imagine that the climate would have been the same. So a big part of my connection to water and education and climate, Tova, when you're talking about empowering students and talking about taking eco action, it's another thing is to connect students in with the fact that they can take action through their job. They can learn more about this. They can become experts in themselves. And I love the work that Earth Rangers does. I feel like you help create that expertise very early on. But that's where my expertise is. I spent a lot of time studying these in ancient sort of clay beds. And actually in the UK, I was part of a project called the Ancient Human Occupation of Britain project that was supported by the Natural History Museum. And we managed it to predate early human occupation by an extra 200,000 years by finding these fossils and then finding human tools next to them. So we found out that humans, hominians, two-legged type human type creatures, were living in this area much earlier than we thought. So it just is so connected, past, present, you know, humans, our culture, how it changes. We're so connected to water. I'm just going to show you quickly about what the Outdoor Learning Store is. Welcome to the charitable nonprofit Outdoor Learning Store. This is our website, outdoorlearningstore.com, and we are a charitable social enterprise offering outdoor learning equipment and resources with 100% of profits going back to supporting outdoor learning non-profit initiatives. We do accept purchase orders if you're a larger organisation or school board, and then here you can just see our most recent options as you go down. If you're really looking for something in particular, you can search up here and look at seasons, themes that you're looking at, everything from Indigenous learning, sustainability and climate change, just to the practicalities of getting outdoors in the first place. We have equipment separated for the students themselves, sit pads, binoculars, clipboards, to equipment for educators like tools and resources and read aloud books. We have everything from early years to post-secondary, and they're separated by grade here if you're looking. And then we have regions of North America and down into Central and South America, and we have specialized localized field guides there. If you want to find a bit more about what we're doing, you can check out our awesome team here, or look at our 50 non-profit partners and advisors from across North America there. We do really try hard to walk the talk with environmental responsibilities. You can find our ethical policies and practices here. And if you're thinking, I love the idea of all these things, but I just don't have the funding, we've created a page that can help connect you into that support network. If you'd like to join our seasonal updates, you can go in with a chance to win a $100 gift card to the score. So you can just click there. So we do also host a podcast where we really try and connect in with the experts in the outdoor learning sphere. And so we start with community collaboration, nature-based connections, there's Indigenous perspectives in there, and this is co-hosted with Ian Shanahan, who's the editor at Green Teacher. Again, that's free, and you can find that wherever you get your podcasts, Earthy Chats. And we're also halfway through our virtual fall workshop series. So we've had over 12,000 people register. We've had about, for this series, we've had about 500 people turning up live for each one. So this coming Tuesday, with Jacob Rodenberg, who's the author of the Big Book of Nature Activities and the Book of Nature Connection. He's going to be talking about sensory activities for all age. They're all at 4 p.m. Pacific or 7 p.m. Eastern. If you haven't signed up, and either you're a teacher or an educator or someone who's just passionate about outdoor learning or land-based learning, Take Me Outside Day and Week is coming up from October 17th to 21st, and they've just got the most incredible week full of speakers, activities, events. And if you sign up for free, then all of that information comes into your inbox and you can utilize whatever works for you. November 15th, Tuesday again, teaching green in the elementary years. And then we finish our sessions with accessibility and outdoor learning with the fantastic accessibility and inclusion consultant, Karen Lai. She's a phenomenal presenter and lots of fun. A sneak peek into our winter workshops. We've been so pleased and happy to have been able to connect with author Monique Gray-Smith. She's the author of Braiding Sweetgrass for Young Adults, the adaptation of Robin Wall Kimmerer's Braiding Sweetgrass. So she's going to be joining us to talk about that. If you've missed any of our previous workshops, you can find them at the bottom of that page under the Recordings tab. And these are all just YouTube videos, so they take a little while to load. It's quite a busy page. And with tomorrow being the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation in Canada, we'd encourage you to watch, if you didn't get a chance to see it live, the workshop we held this past Tuesday called Animals Care for Mother Earth, an Indigenous teaching resource that was presented by Bill Helene, and it's a new resource that he's produced for Strong Nations, who are one of our partners, and they're an Indigenous owned and operated publishing house based on Vancouver Island. But if you search down, we think we've covered so many different topics and age groups. There's Indigenous, there's food waste, there's school gardens, there's map making, there's exploring nature. So we really hope you can find something that works for you there. And I think that's pretty much it. You can have a look at the store. If you have any questions, you can always email me at outreach@outdoorlearningstore.com. Welcome. Thanks so much. So yeah, that's a social enterprise that helped us to try and be less reliant on grant funding as a non-profit, and then 100% of our proceeds go back into other outdoor learning non-profits. And we feel like we've created this network that started off in the Columbia Basin, that's now North America wide, where these relationships and support. And yeah, if you go to our partners page, a lot of people have lots of beautiful reviews, free resources for you to access as well. And then this is the other people I'm here representing. To talk briefly about another organisation that I'm incredibly proud to be a part of, and that's the Classrooms to Communities Education Network. And so we're a province-wide network that's connecting classrooms and communities and hoping to grow collaboration, leadership and mentorship capacity for place-based education and environmental literacy. We host lots of different in-person events across the province, but the big one that's coming up is our C2C provincial conference, and we're hosting it in Revelstoke, BC. I'm actually the chair, local chair for this conference, and it's 2 full days, and the theme is reconnecting ourselves with landscapes, waterways and each other. And we are at the confluence of the mighty Columbia River, the Jordan River, the Illecillewa, and so it feels like a place that really we can connect in with that. We're looking at transformative approaches to place and land-based learning, community-connected field experiences around the region on the Saturday that are all paid for, and networking social events that enable colleagues from across BC to talk about the work that they're doing. For example, having a look at some of our field experiences, we have opportunities to sign up and do the Outdoor Council of Canada Field Leader Programme, visiting hydroelectric dam, museums, old growth forests, sharing tea with elders, dive into nature journaling, and of course the fantastic Living Lakes Canada are going to be helping a group do some hands-on water quality assessment and learn about stewardship, which I'm going to talk a little bit about in my presentation later. You can go canoeing, foraging, learning from the land with Indigenous wisdom from local Indigenous knowledge keepers. There's talking about food and growing, and then there's some really sort of body and mind connective opportunities there too. So we hope on the Saturday there's something for everyone there. And on this Friday, what we offer is some concurrent sessions, and I really don't have time to go through, but there is an enormous amount of options that are happening, some shorter, some longer. And we have breakfast, lunch and dinner from fantastic locally sourced food and local caterers for all of Friday and Saturday if you did join us. And so you can go to c2c-bc.org and hit register now if you'd like to join us. To talk briefly. Okay, so yes, bit of a plug for all the things we're doing, and we're all connected in together to try do a lot of my time is spent just with kids, teaching them about this. I would go into schools and I would do pond dipping, or we do water studies. And then I realized that what we have to do is not just have an external person come in. We have to generate these passionate educators within the system who then teach their colleagues and teach their peers and deliver this themselves, rather than me just coming in once a year. So that's the new sort of mandate. That's the new passion that's happening. Hey, I just want to share a really cool resource with you. I'm hoping, oh, I might have to do a new share. Just give me a second. Okay, hoping you can see that. I've shared this before on a different thing, but this is earth.nullschool.net. This is basically created by NASA. But if any of you are ever in a classroom situation or taking this outside or working with students who are like tech fiends and don't want to put their phones down, all of them, this is an amazing resource that can connect people in. And one of the things that I just want to show you is, at the moment, this is real time. There's an enormous number of satellites that are being utilized to create this model. And I'm just going to zoom in to sort of where we are, right? Here's North America. This island is Vancouver Island I'm hovering over. So this is surface wind at the moment. So we can see that the Earth spinning, the Coriolis effect, creates these sort of larger anti-clockwise movements of air. What's interesting is if we have a look over here, where I don't know if anyone's heard the news, but in Florida, Hurricane Ian, which became hurricane, tropical storm Ian, which is going to be hurricane again. You can see this surface wind swirling, that anticyclonic weather system. It's pretty mad. I just want to now show you at 250 kilopascals, which is about 7 kilometers in the air. So this is the same thing, but this is the jet stream. So this is the high level rivers of the sky that control all of our smaller sort of climate and weather systems. Not climate, weather. The jet stream is a part of our climatic system, but this is what's controlling weather. And as you can see, it's swirling across. So I'm just going to switch back. So there's the surface. We see these sort of, if you look up north a bit, these sort of patterns interacting. And then there's the jet stream carrying this weather. So this tells you that if we're polluting water and we're polluting air in one place, it's being swept across the globe. Everything is interconnected. And I use this tool to teach about that, about the impacts we have on other people, and then how if we do small great actions for us, we're actually creating beautiful impacts across the globe for people. Now I want to just quickly swap. I'm going to swap to currents. So these are ocean currents instead, and I'm going to come down to the surface so we can make it sense. So for some people, you might spot here, this is the Gulf Stream that takes warm water over to where I'm from, for example, which theoretically is on the same latitude as places that are quite snowbound, but because of this hot water jet stream traveling across the Atlantic Ocean, we get much nicer climate temperatures. We have some small ocean currents happening here, but as you can see again, currents coming out around the equator are then feeding into these smaller currents, and it's all connected. So what we have is winds drive ocean currents, and that means that they redistribute whatever's happening, all of the heat of the earth, out to where we are. So there is nothing in a silo. There is no place that is not impacted by what's going on. So again, it can be a bit scary and tying into that eco-anxiety, but actually if we make choices to care for our waterways, then we are actually going to impact positively on waterways across our earth. And so I highly recommend this. I can follow up with the link in the email, but this is an amazing teaching tool to connect students in. You know, whether I'm here just talking about the boundaries of safety of water with really young students and building little shelters on the beach of what they think an ideal mouse house might be, or whether I'm up in, you know, mountainous regions hiking on frozen water or glaciers, or looking at alpine stream ecology with older students, or whether your water looks like this that you spend the most time, or maybe it looks like this. You'll see my dog a couple of times. Anytime you're out there, you are building stewardship. Anytime you are out in nature, there is a learning opportunity. And so you don't have to have this strict plan of we're going to do X, Y, and Z. Anytime any person is out there, they are learning. And, you know, research supports it. It strongly suggests that experiences of nature boost academic learning, personal development, and environmental stewardship. This is from Do Experiences with Nature Promote Learning from Frontiers in Psychology 2019. I could give you a list of 9,000 other papers, and actually Take Me Outside, if you're looking for peer-reviewed published research, is an amazing place if you're looking to support school admin leaders or encourage parents or show people why you're doing this work. That's the place. Here with kids, we're bucketing. We were just seeing how heavy the bucket felt. We were up on the beach building channels and tunnels and seeing if we could stop the water from running. And how do certain animals like beavers perhaps do that? What happens to that water if it doesn't flow down the channel? Where does it go? Okay, we were talking about the way the water interacts in systems. It could be simple as throwing stones, little rocks, and very carefully not at anybody else is another good risk management tool. What shapes are made when the rocks hit? What happens when we all throw it at once? What happens to the circles that occur as pebbles are dropped in? We have amazing capacity for inquiry as children that we tend to sort of destroy through formal education. And I'm so pleased to see that many curriculums I'm looking at across Canada and beyond are actually addressing this, and especially at younger years, like allowing a sense of wonder and inquiry. But I have a bunch of resources that you can use to basically, let's drop a stone, and then you have an entire lesson and another lesson connected to math and creativity and social studies that you can take back into the classroom or into your homeschool group or with your children. Maybe it's pond dipping, looking at bugs through stuff. God, they love it. Teaches them to share the equipment if you don't have one per child, and to be patient, and then to put them back carefully. We talked, this looks like we're sort of destroying a pristine ecosystem. This is a artificial wetland that is accessed by cars quite frequently. Mechanized vehicles are allowed here, so these footsteps, and we just stayed in this one puddle, and this looks pretty barren, it looks pretty gross, right? Just like this muddy mess, but we found so much life, so many macroinvertebrates. Highly recommend pond dipping. Maybe it's going down to the water and building a fire with your students and telling stories. Starting a story with once upon a time there was and then letting them build on it, or reading Indigenous stories that connect to place so that they feel a deeper connection. We know that when they're connected to it, they care for it, and that is the future of our work. Okay, I'm aware that I'm speedy. Maybe it's a litter collection. Maybe you're with older students doing these macroinvertebrate studies. All you need, I mean, I've got petri dishes, but white ice cube trays works phenomenally. Maybe you find some snails, maybe you find some larvae. There's all kinds of things. Maybe you can test for pH, which is some very simple things in like the Living Lakes Canada, but Lake Blitz is a starting point which you can build on. We're looking at more color things here. These students were grade 9s. They did not want to get off their phones. They did not want to leave the safety of having their iPhone plugged in the classroom. And they got out here and started doing science, and they were absolutely in love. We made signs. We went and visited our water management treatment plant, and then we made signs. This is terrible photographs, my dog again, about when water restrictions, fat in the pan goes in the can. You shouldn't flush fat down. That's so important for the well-being of our water. And so they made these really cool posters, and they were featured in local media, and they won prizes, and it was just amazing. I also got the kids to narrate over the videos that they'd taken of our site tours and river tours, and they sort of took ownership of that creation of that content. And so there was a really amazing opportunity for them to develop their own skills and to speak their truth and their voice about what was important to them. Hey, look, I'm from a store, we're a non-profit, but if you're looking for inspiration for building programs, reading stories, that's what we do. We didn't find anything in Canada or North America where there was like this one-stop shop for stuff, whether it's binoculars that fit little hands, or field guides, or sit pads, nobody likes a wet bum, whether it's books like Groundswell, which you can read to older students as you to start your day, or teaching kids about climate change, which is all these practical fun games you can do outside. Do it. And water rangers who live in Lakes Canada, we have small kits, bigger kits that you can utilize with your classes that are so simple. You don't have to be a water scientist to make it work. They're really well described, and you can just really make a massive difference to any group that you're working with. They have these huge kits which are amazing, that does like a whole class, and there is funding opportunities to help you get access to this. You can go to outdoorlearningstore.com/funding and have a look. We've got some provincial, we've got national ones there, or helping you to tie into your local groups, you know, like your credit union or somewhere like that might provide funding. I don't know if there's time for any questions, but that was me.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Jade. I'm so inspired, and I'm just walking with so many other resources. Like, I just think the work that you do with all different like ages and grades, and I guess like clubs that these kids are a part of, like I think all that work is so creative and so impactful. So I love your presentation. So thank you so much for sharing that. We have come to our question period. I'm just going to pop my screen up here. Tova has to run. So if we have any questions directed at Earth Rangers, I'd encourage you to get those questions out there. But we can always relay some back to Tova. But yeah, I just like to say thank you for these amazing
I think we lost Camille.
Yeah, I
Talk
think
about
we lost
timing.
her.
It's finished. It's over. We have to go. Maybe I could give away my prize.
Yes, Jade. The floor is
If
yours.
anybody wanted in the chat to write me, get your typing fingers at the ready, 3 words that begin with W that connect into something that they engage with today that's not, or maybe one could be water, but there's 3 different W words, and the first person to give me 3 W words will get a $25 gift card to the Outdoor Learning Store. I wonder if anyone is there having a text. If we don't have people, then I will choose one randomly and send them to your email address. Grace, wetlands, wind and wilderness. Excellent work. Grace, if you would like to direct message me your email, I will send you that gift card right up.
That was a good one. Wetland, wild, and wilderness. Good thinking. Does anyone have a question for Herd Ranger before Tova needs to leave us for today? No?
Okay, well, it was great seeing everyone or presenting to everyone. Jade, I thought that was like an amazing presentation. I really enjoyed it, and we should totally connect like offline sometime for sure. Yeah. I'm going to put my email in the chat just in case anyone does have any questions or wants more information about Earth Rangers programs. Obviously, feel free to reach out to me anytime. And thank you so much again. Let me put it in, and then I have to get my daughter to gymnastics.
Thank you so much, Tova.
Okay, bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Lovely to meet you. Goodbye.
All right. Does anybody else have questions for Jade now, or anything related to the outdoors, stewardship, water topic in general?
I think people have probably got to get back to their work, haven't they, over lunch?
Yeah, that's very true. Well, if nobody have a question, I actually have one question for you, Jade. Like you said that you were coming from a chemistry background, so I wonder what made you go from environmental chemistry to environmental education.
That's a great question. I spend a lot of time, so those ostracods I showed at the beginning, those little microscopic things, I should have explained that each of those is smaller than a millimeter. Those pictures were with a scanning electron microscope. So each of those is like 100 of them would fit in a millimeter. And so I spent a lot of time looking through microscopes, and then we used to do a bit of chemistry on the shells to understand, they also capture the amount of carbon and oxygen within the air when they're forming their shells. So I spent a lot of time doing that, and I loved it. And then I went to work in the sort of environmental industry, doing sort of environmental impact assessments for big resource projects, which we need resources as humans, but I found it a little bit heartbreaking how much we took without having any reciprocity and giving back. And so then I started to go into schools and just randomly meet people and talk about my passion projects and my rock collection and my obsession with dead things that live in rocks. And I found that kids love dead things, like they're really into it. And that I just had a very strong passion for sharing. And so I decided to move into that. And then through the work and connecting to amazing organizations like these, I realized that this is where I should be. And so that was that transition. But I'm very grateful for all of the sort of scientific research I did and for the knowledge that I had within that field. But then to take it and make it accessible. Nobody reads scientific papers except other people in the field. And then a lot of the time, the news take it and they simplify it, oversimplify it, or such like, and people poke holes in it. And so my dream was to get them young and teach them things before society told them, oh, you're too young to understand that, or oh, that's too complex, and then watch them grow into the next set of decision makers. So that was
it was so inspiring. Like just your old presentation made me think at so many ways we can like connect with LLC and build on like more programs and more stewardship groups. Camille, you're back?
I am. I'm so sorry, everybody.
Don't be sorry. We gave out the prize, so you don't win. But
no,
I don't think
you
you're
missed
allowed
it.
to win anyway.
Dang it. Was the prize a new computer by chance?
I wish. Let's just put that out there into the universe and see what happens.
Yes, great. Just put that energy out there. Well, my apologies, everybody. Thank you so much for doing that then, and Sophie for stepping in with some questions. Looks like I missed Tova. But that's great. Did anybody have any questions at all?
No,
But I think, I think Tova and I just covered it all very in depth.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. Well, looks like Jade, you got to run. I'm sure you're super busy with the conference coming up. If you haven't done another plug for that, I definitely recommend everybody in the area give it a think. It's going to be super memorable with so many great opportunities. Even if you're not an educator yourself, it's a great opportunity to get connected with others, because we act as educators in different ways. Educating our family and our friends. So definitely some great tips and tricks and opportunities to take advantage of there. Well, thanks again to our speakers. And if anyone has any other questions that come bubbling up after our presentation ends here, then feel free to send those to us and we'll connect with our speakers. And stay tuned for our follow-up email with all of the helpful links and stuff that was mentioned today.